Hello, this is ZeroSugarRush, and today we're going to be talking about Palamute damage, how much they actually do. If you're like me, you've been wondering how much damage your Palamute's been doing, so I decided let's take a look and actually see how much damage our furry companion is putting out. So to start with, for testing, I'm going to be using one of the strongest weapons available to me for my dog so that I give him the best chance to do some good damage. In that case, I'm going with this one, the Sea Golden Drum. And I'm using this one because even though this one has higher raw, they have negative affinity, so that'll be annoying for testing. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be using on our dog. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be testing our dog's attacks with no gear, and then we'll test it with some gear later. So let's get over to the training area and give it a shot. And this is the Palamute we'll be using. They are level 35, so we can get the highest damage numbers without any equipped skills. We're not going to be using any equipped skills for now. And yeah, let's get over there. So the way we're going to be testing the Palamute's damage is we're going to just stand here and shoot. If you didn't know, your Palamute, even though they will attack, even if you're not attacking, a lot of the time they attack a lot faster if you are also attacking. And this is true for any weapon, but for instance, if I was using a longsword and just attacking right here and not even hitting the monster, the Palamute would still attack at its full speed. We're just using the light bowgun so that we don't move around whenever we attack. So here we go. Our Palamute currently only has the weapon equipped, no gear, and no skills. So. Alright, so our Palamute had no gear equipped, and over 30 seconds they did 307 damage, which brings their DPS to 10.23. So now let's go put on some different gears. Okay, now let's equip the dual blade chain. Right here. Alright. And go over here, and now we just have to get him to activate it. Okay, and we can see that he's activated it now, and here we go. Alright, and that is the dual-bladed chain. You will see here I added this wrong part hit damage correction, and that is because sometimes the dog in my testing will attack different parts of this training dummy that have different weaknesses, and so I just look at it in my editor and make sure that everything is adjusted to what it should be. So since we know what the hits should be, it's easy to adjust. Anyway, what is kind of interesting is that our DPS is exactly the same as not using the dual bladed chains, which I'm not sure what that means. Like, maybe these things have a larger attack range, or maybe it's a situation where a dog doesn't do anything different whenever it's in its constant attack animation, which it is in since we're attacking constantly. It does seem like your dog does some different stuff whenever you're not attacking constantly, but we're not testing that right now. That's a bit of another situation to figure out how to test. So, same DPS as not having any gear at all for the dual blade chain. Alright, moving on. Okay, and now we have the guarding Parasol. Let's get him to activate it. Alright, and we have got him to activate the guarding Parasol, so here we go. Okay, and just like the dual blade chain, the guarding Parasol does not seem to add any damage whenever you're doing your dog's attack animation. So, interesting, we're not seeing any damage increases for these two gears so far. So what I noticed from when he was using it, he was not really doing much different with his attacks. So, like you saw him do just there, I have a theory that maybe the guarding Parasol attacks are only on these kind of different attack moves. Like whenever you're attacking like this, your dog goes into this combo like that, see? And he doesn't start doing other attacks. But when you're out of it, he goes a bit slower but has a different attack set. I don't think I can test those attack sets very well in this video. I don't think I'll be able to fit it in, and it'll take a different methodology. So, I won't be able to test that, but it does seem to be the case if you ask me, but I'm not sure. But yeah, guarding Parasol seems to not do any extra damage for the main combo. So now we will test out the large Shuriken. Unlike the guarding Parasol or the other buddy gears, this one does not get activated. It instead is just used periodically by your dog. Yeah, so it looks like if you have this equipped, then if your dog is doing his ranged attacks, he is going to be using that quite a lot, actually. So if you are maybe a ranged player, this might be a good thing to put on your dog if you are never close to the monster, although you have to be pretty far away for him to use it. Even if you're playing ranged, you might be closer than this. Like, let's just even move it up a little bit here. Like I'm just moving up here, and see, he's already closed the distance. So, yeah. If you're really far away all the time, then I guess that's not a bad option. The damage isn't going to be very useful to compare to the other damage, though, because it is using his ranged attack damage, which is different on his weapon than his close-up attack damage. So that's just for demonstration purposes. Alright, and next we are testing the scrolls. We're going to start with the attack scroll. The attack scroll just increases your dog's attack, so let's see how that does for his damage. And that was the heavy strike scroll. And it looks like there was a DPS increase. You can tell that our second hits in that combo were 14 instead of 13, like they were in all the other combos. The first hit was unchanged, so whatever happened there that gave us our 4.89% increase, our 5% increase, could have been something like a bigger increase that just wasn't applied because of a rounding issue, so the lower number was rounded down, basically. So I would say that the increase is somewhere between 5 and 10%. I'm not sure, just because of how rounding works, but it's not very much. It's definitely not a lot. Alright, next one. Now we will do the Flurry Strike scroll, which is a affinity boosting scroll, so more critical hits. In this case, more than 0, because there is nothing giving any critical hit chance to the dog at the moment. Okay, and there is the scroll. Let's get him to attack in the same place on the leg again. Alright, and that was the Flurry Strike scroll. I had to do a damage correction of -46 because the dog started out with the wrong combo before I started the timer, so I took that off from the total damage you see on screen, which brought our adjusted total to 352, which is a DPS of 11.73, which is an increase of about 15%, 14.65%, so we can say 15% over base, which is significant. That's actually pretty good. And what was interesting about this is supposed to be a gear that increases your affinity, but if you watch what the dog was doing, literally every hit was a critical, so it might as well have said every hit is a critical when you use this. So this is quite a nice gear. Bear in mind, I don't factor in how often your Palamute will use each gear, because we don't actually know if there's like some sort of mechanic of how it decides which one to use and how often it'll use, so that would obviously affect any of these increases you're getting. So it's hard to say like, oh, well, this one's definitely better because the base increase is so much higher. But since we don't know anything else otherwise, I would say we can just assume it is better because we don't have any other information that says otherwise yet. But looking pretty good, this critical hit scroll. So cool. All right, next, let's try the Blitz scroll, which will increase his attack speed. And here we go. Okay, and that was the Flurry Strike scroll, which increases our attack speed. I had to do quite a lot of damage correction on this one because our dog really just wanted to move to the front for a lot of these hits, and I had to remove all of the extra damage from those. Our adjusted total is 320 after the damage correction of -51, which gives us a DPS of 10.66, which is an increase over base of about 4.23%. That could easily be rounded to 5 depending on the situation. So I guess that could also translate into saying there's a 4 or 5% increase in your dog's attack speed. But as far as like this goes, not a significant increase, so a little disappointing for me personally, but maybe it has some other applications. Well, alright, moving on. The only one left that's kind of like a damage thing is this throw worm scroll, which we won't be using because I'm not testing the range damage of our dog, and this only really applies to when they're only attacking range, so we'll just leave that off. So yeah, let's see how the numbers compare. I thought it'd be interesting to just get some damage from a pretty endgame build from my hunter, just for comparison. It's kind of mostly for fun because this isn't being tested in a way that I can guarantee is gonna be like anywhere near consistent in power level to the dog. But just to give us an idea, so this is a pretty strong set. You can probably do better, but it's got a lot of weakness exploit and critical boost and all that good stuff. And let me show you the status of it. We have 204 attack, 55% affinity without weakness exploit. I'm not sure if the parts we'll be attacking have weakness, but we'll see. And yeah, there we go. Let's give it a shot. Okay, I will try just 2 different combos here. I will do this really basic one so I can guarantee that we hit the right spot. Then I'll try to do like a optimal rotation, although I'm not an optimal longsword player. So here we go. Okay, and with our very naive setup, we can see that our hunter did about 37 DPS, just kind of spamming thrusts, which, you know, the Palamute is a good third or a little bit less than that DPS of the hunter, and you know, maybe in less optimal conditions, maybe you're not hitting as much, but somehow your dog is, like, that will bring the dog closer to you, so more damage than you might think. Actually, it's not going to change the world, but it's not insignificant. It's there, so there is something. Now let's try the full combo. So for this, I'm just going to start with my sword in yellow because I usually play from yellow, and then when I get red I use Helmbreaker, so I'll just set up my sword so it's in yellow and we'll go from there because we're trying to show what the best possible scenario is. Okay, and here we go, and if you have any tips for me, let me know in the comments. Here we go. Okay, and in this very probably impossible to get scenario, we have 77 or so DPS on the hunter versus the Palamute's 10, so the hunter definitely winning out here, but like unless you're Team Darkside, like I said, you're not going to probably hit these numbers in a fight unless the thing just does not move forever. So if you can, please show me. I will be very impressed. And that wraps it up for now. The video is already pretty long, and there's some other stuff I would like to test. There's infinite stuff I'd like to test, but I think this is enough for now. So we learned that our Palamute can do some pretty okay damage. It depends on how you're measuring how much your damage is from your hunter, which is debatable. That the crit hit scroll seems to give us a really nice chunk of damage boost, about 15% from what we were working on. The others, not so much, except the throwing thing, the chakram, whatever it is. If you're only doing range attacks, that actually increased our damage by quite a lot now that I look at it in post. So if you're in a situation, maybe you play ranged and you can just have your dog throw that constantly. It seems pretty good. But yeah, anyway, that's been all for me. I've been ZeroSugarRush. You can find me on twitch.tv/ZeroSugarRush every day, usually. And also, if you like this video, then throw me a subscribe, throw me a like, it helps me out a lot. And if you know anyone who might want to see this, then, you know, show it to them. And otherwise, you know, happy hunting. See ya!